The first step to changing your pads and rotors is to jack the vehicle up, generally either the front half first and then the back half, or the back half and the front half. Do this by loosening the lug nuts just a little bit, jacking the car up, putting it on jack stands, and then ultimately taking the tire completely off. The next step is to remove the brake caliper. The brake caliper is held on by two caliper guide pins, which are on the top and bottom of the back part of the bracket, shown here. Remove the two caliper guide pin bolts, 14mm socket, and then ultimately take the caliper off. You don't want to let the caliper hang, so either put it on something or use a zip tie to hold it there. Once the caliper is off, use a flathead screwdriver to pop off both brake pads. The next step is to remove the brake caliper bracket itself. The brake caliper bracket is held on by two 17mm bolts located, as shown here, at the top and bottom of the brake caliper bracket. You may need a torque wrench or something to give it a little bit more oomph, but ultimately they come out and then the entire bracket simply pulls away. Next, remove the old brake rotor itself. The rotor is held on by two Phillips head screws, and then the rotor should, in theory, pull straight off. I live in the Northeast, and so mine had some road salt and some rust and stuff, so as you can see, we had to give it a little bit more muscle. Ultimately, I used a grease, WD-40, and then hit it with a rubber mallet, and it popped off. After removing the old brake rotor, now you can install the new brake rotor. Ultimately, when you install the new brake rotor, you just want to line it up so that the two rotor screws can go back in, and then hand tighten the two rotor screws. I couldn't find a torque spec. The next step is to reinstall the caliper bracket itself. Some brakes come with these caliper guide boots, which are these little silver pieces. They simply clip into the caliper bracket itself. Once you have them on, use the 17mm bolts that you have to install the bracket, and the torque specs for the front are 70 foot-pounds. The final step is to reinstall the new brake pads and the caliper itself. You're going to need to start by compressing the caliper so that it will fit back on with the new brake pads, as shown here. Install a new brake pad on either side of the rotor with or without the anti-squeak, which is the red stuff shown here. And then ultimately reinstall the caliper and put back on those two 14mm guide pins in the back. They're at 20 foot-pounds each for the front. And then put the tire back on and go do the next brake.